And konnichiwa, and welcome to the final installment of Rick's Megazord Madness here at the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, and today let's finish out with the Central Bracket. And just because Megazord Madness is officially over doesn't mean we can't finish out over here at the tavern. So, once again, I'm going to give you guys my opinions, and these are based on nothing objective, just subjective, based on what I like, because as somebody has pointed out, it is a popularity contest, and since it's my show, I'm going to tell you which Zords I find to be more popular. That being said, we're going to go to what I call the central bracket, which on the pentagon is the top left corner. Doesn't really fit, but again, it's better than some other names out there. And we're going to be going left to right, so bottom to top on this if you want to follow along at home. So, in the first matchup, we have Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Ninjor versus Operation Overdrive's Fire Truck Zord. So again, we have a matchup with something that is a Zord and something that is not a Zord. First with Ninjor. Okay, I always like Ninjor as a character. I like the Dudley Do-Right voice that they gave for him. And now that I actually have seen Ninja Man in action with Gokaiger, I have to admit, I kind of like the character in its Japanese roots as well. But strictly looking at it from a Mighty Morphin perspective, I like Ninjor. I thought he was great. I thought he was fun. I always enjoyed it when he showed up in the show. I didn't find him annoying. I didn't find him grating or anything. He was an interesting character. Even when he turned into a giant, I love the fact they had an alternate mode where he could be more powerful, he could be faster, he can shoot lasers and all that. I just thought he was a good character all around. Nothing really negative to say about him, to be quite honest. But then we have the Operation Overdrive Fire Truck Zord. Now, I love the Siren Builder or the Flashpoint Megazord, wherever you want to go ahead and call it, but this is given just the fire truck. And this is an instance where I do feel the bracket was setting up Operation Overdrive to fail. Again, it is popular opinion that Operation Overdrive was the worst series of Power Rangers. Again, I don't agree with that, but whoever created this bracket seemed to realize that that seems to be the opinion on the internet and only gave it one Zord and gave it one of the most boring Zords out there. Yes, that's a fire truck. Yes, it can go ahead and shoot water, but why didn't we just include the entire Megazord? Why didn't you include maybe one of the Battlefleet Zords or one of the more interesting Zords on the team? You just gave it the fire truck. And again, that's what's called the fire truck. It's really hard, like, if you don't know what these are, so which do you like better? Ninjor or the fire truck? I don't know if many people are going to pick the fire truck in that instance. So, even though this is a Zord that's not and against not a Zord, in my opinion, I do like Ninjor better than just a fire truck by itself. So I'm going to go with Ninjor in this matchup. In the next matchup, we have the Super Samurai BullZord versus the Mighty Morphin Pterodactyl Zord. This is kind of an odd matchup that they would have here, to be quite honest. On the one hand, with the BullZord, it's a pretty interesting Zord. It's a giant bull that rampages, can turn to Megazord, has a Gatling gun as a weapon. It's a pretty decent Zord, and for whatever reason, has a cave inside of it. Yeah, there we are. So, I think as a standalone Zord, it's pretty interesting. Not much to say about it because I don't think they really did much with it within the series. But then we go against an iconic Zord like the Mighty Morphin Pterodactyl Zord. The problem is the Pterodactyl Zord is nothing really special. It is, in my opinion, the weakest link of the original Mighty Morphin Zords. Yes, it does have the ability to fly, but fly and shoot lasers is really the only thing you can go ahead and do. And frankly, you could form the Megazord without it. It is kind of a superfluous Zord when you think about it. And as I said in a previous video, I do think that its upgraded form into the Firebird Thunder Zord is a significant improvement. So I just don't know why they decided to put this particular matchup of a flying Zord that can shoot lasers against a bull that can change into a robot with a Gatling gun. Doesn't make sense to me, but if I have to be, honest here, I like the BullZord better. I really do. The Pterodactyl by itself, again, is not impressive by its own, but the BullZord is impressive by its own, so I'm going to go with the BullZord. Next, another Samurai Zord, this time the Lion's Folding Zord, and then the Super Mega Force Delta Runner. this is a pretty weak matchup, to be honest here. Okay, so you got the Lion Zord. That's kind of interesting by itself. It you know can fly a little bit. It can shoot fire, but frankly, that's all it can really do. There are much more impressive Lion Zords out there. I would dare say Ninja Storm Lion Zord, which I shot down in a previous vote, is a lot more interesting of a Zord than this one. But then when you compare it against the Super Mega Force Delta Runner, again, the only thing that thing can really do is turn sideways and shoot guns, which I always thought it was kind of interesting in the series. But when you think of the logistics, imagine driving a car and you're chasing somebody, you need to shoot them, you have to turn sideways to shoot them from your tires. That seems a bit odd. So basically, what we have is a lion that breathes fire against a car that has to turn sideways to shoot. Um, Non terribly impressive for either of them. And again, this is more of those things where it's greater as a part of the whole as opposed to being by itself. That being said, if I had to pick one over the other, I'd definitely say that the Lion Zord is a much more interesting Zord than the Super Mega Force Delta Runner. It's not the SPD Delta Runner. Then again, we don't know exactly what it is because we're not bothered to give an origin. So I'm going to go with the Samurai Lion Zord in this matchup. Next, we have Mystic Force Catastros versus the SPD Omega Max Cycle. Now, Catastros, same thing I said about Bright Star. I love it. I love that it's like an organic being. It has a Zord mode. You can do a Centaur mode. You can interchange it with the Red Ranger and Korag. It's just awesome. I don't think I need to go into further detail based on what I've already said about Bright Star. And of course, I hope you've seen that video where I went and talked about Bright Star. The SPD Omega Max Cycle, on the other hand, here's the thing. Um, it's not that I forgot about this Zord existing. I know it exists, but it doesn't leave an impression. You don't really remember it. When you watch SPD, do you really remember the Omega Ranger Zord in that series? And really, the only thing significant or significantly interesting about it is that it becomes a motorcycle for the SPD Megazord. And frankly, the idea that it's a motorcycle for a Megazord sounds cool, but it really isn't when you actually think of, a large scale city and, just how it operates. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just not impressed by this. I don't remember much of it. I'm not fond of it in any way. It's just a giant motorcycle, and even the transformation it gives with the SPD Megazord is kind of lackluster. I don't even remember much about it in the series. So, and I count against Zords that don't leave much of an impression for me, and this is definitely one of them. So, whereas Catastros is just awesome, and I remember every cool thing about it, and the Omega Max Cycle, and I don't have any fond memories of it, I'm going to go ahead and pick Catastros over the Omega Max Cycle. Plain and simple. Next, we have the Time Force Q-Rex versus the Mighty Morphin Triceratops. Now, as I said before, I do like the Q-Rex Megazord, but the original Q-Rex I think is better. It's just an awesome Zord. I mean, look at it. It's fierce. It's a dinosaur mecha. It has laser cannons. It can turn to its own robot, shoot missiles, and use sonic pulses or whatever it is from its shoulders. And I am really upset I never got to get the toy as a kid because that'd been so cool to use the Morphin through the voice commands and make it move. That just seems so awesome. It's one of the one Zords I was never able to get when I was younger, and I still can't get to this day. So, just a lot of good things to say about the Q Rex. And of course, as I said with the story, it was integral to a lot of what was going on in Time Force, and that's good when a Zord actually matters in the story. On the other side, we do have the Mighty Morphin Triceratops, which again was one of my favorite Zords in my Mighty Morphin. I love that they had the tail weapon. I love that it had the horns that become the chains, and they only use that twice, but that was freaking awesome. But even though as much as I like it and I compare it to the Q-Rex, let's be honest, the Q-Rex is more and does more, and that matters to me. So the fact that the Triceratops Dinozord doesn't really do anything on its own, I mean, yeah, it's a great tank Zord. That's basically what it is. That's a tank. If it could change into its own robot, that would be something, but as it is, against the Q-Rex and all the amazing stuff it can go ahead and do by itself, I'm going to have to go with the Q-Rex. So Time Force wins in this one. Now here is a matchup. Oh boy. We have the in space Astro Megaship versus the Mighty Morphin Tiger Zord. Let's talk about the Tiger Zord first. I mean, it is one of those classic Zords. It has a bestial form. It can change into a robot. It can mimic the pilot's moves. It can shoot fireballs. I mean, go watch Death Battle and it'll tell you all the things I'm trying to go ahead and tell you. But I will point out I don't believe that Gundam could have beat the Tiger Zord. And just as a quick aside, because I haven't been able to fit this in my videos, the whole argument was predicated on the fact that the Gundam could cut through an entire space station with a single swath, and it could do that to the Tiger Zord, therefore it beats the Tiger Zord. That only matters if you know what the composite is made of what the station is made up of. Because here's the thing, if the station was made of, say, steel, and the gun could cut through it, then that's not terribly impressive. But if it was made up of, say, adamantium, then yes, that would be impressive. It can cut through that. But since we did not establish neither what the space station nor the Tiger Zord is made of, as far as metals, alloys, whatever and stuff, then I think it's a BS argument. And, the Tiger Zord could be neoplutonium armor, and who knows, neoplutonium armor is probably more powerful than whatever they have in the Gundam universe. We don't know that, but they don't bother to go into that. And again, there's bias against Power Rangers over a lot of these different places, and I would say Screwtech is one of them. But that's neither here nor there. Whatever it is, the Tiger Zord is an awesome Zord. I love it. I think it's cool. And I got the Legacy Edition, and surprisingly, it's a lot better than the original simply because it's more show accurate. That's impressive. I really like that. But Tiger Zord is one of the classic Zords, and I love it. But I love the Astro Megaship. Okay, so what do we got here? First, it's a spaceship. I should be done there, but let's go further into it. It is a spaceship. It can travel faster than light. Has the galaxy gliders. Has the Mega Tank. It can change into its own Megazord. Has a shuttle bay for the Astro shuttle. It has a what do they call it? A synthetron, which means it can make any food that you want in it. And most impressively, it has a semi-deck, otherwise known as a holodeck, and you can live on it. I mean, come on, guys, that is freaking awesome. Anything that has a built-in holodeck, automatic A right there. So, even though the Tiger Zord is more iconic, I just love the fact that you have the Astro Megazord, it can do all those amazing things, and it has its own holodeck on it. Come on, who wouldn't want that? I mean, if somebody offered you guys the Tiger Zord against compared to the Astro Megaship, how many would actually pick the Tiger Zord over the Astro Megaship? Really? I mean, come on. All right. So, Astro Megaship. I know it's going to be a controversial choice for a lot of people, but it's my show. So, there it is, Astro Megaship. Next, the Wild Force Deer Zord versus the Lightspeed Rescue Max Solar Zord. And the Deer Zord is kind of an odd choice, to be quite honest. Of all the different singular wild Zords you could have added in there, say, like the lion, like the gator, like the wolf, like the falcon, or even Animus, for crying out loud. They put the Deer Zord in there. That's kind of an odd choice. And also, Animus as a god. You think they would put Animus in there too? That'd be an interesting matchup. But no, they put the Deer Zord, and while the Deer Zord was introduced in a rather horrible episode of the series, I don't think there's anybody who likes Sing Song. I mean, nobody I've ever met. I have to admit that the Deer Zord is unique. I like the color scheme. Nobody's ever done a deer before. It's a great weapon when it's combined to the Megazord. And I think most impressively, it does have that healing factor. I think the only other time we saw a Zord that has some sort of healing factor was the original Megazord back in Mighty Morphin, when I believe the Dragon Zord was covered in something, some sort of acid or something, used its cranial laser to repair that. Now, I don't know if that's original Zoo Ranger footage or Zoo 2 footage. I'd have to go back and check what episode that was. Nevertheless, this was kind of unique that it did have this healing capability. So, frankly, when you think about it, it could just continuously heal itself and other Zords in battle, so there should be no reason why it should ever lose. But again, practicality-wise, it would have to lose sometimes. Nevertheless, I mean, Deer Zord, I think it was a kind of a decent Zord to put in there. But when you compare it to the Max Solar Zord, I mean, the Titanium Ranger's own Zord. It flies, it's based on solar power, and of course, it uses solar energy to power its attacks. So, in a sense, it's got almost exhaustible supply of power. It can travel into space. Whether or not it can actually go FTL or further than the solar system is up for debate. But it can fly through the atmosphere, and it's powerful enough to pull all the super trains into space and get them to go ahead and fly. And that's rather impressive as well. Not to mention it's agile. Look at all those flips and kicks and whatever that stuff that it does. That's just awesome. And again, I have to pick Zords that can transform and fly and do all those things as opposed to singular Zords that don't do all those kinds of things like the Deer Zord. Again, the one thing the Deer Zord's got going for it is its healing ability, but the Max Solar Zord I just think does a lot more. It's just a lot more interesting of a Zord. Not to mention, again, in Sentai, it was remote controlled, but in the American footage, you got the Titanium Ranger, and for a Zord for the Titanium Ranger, that's pretty cool, man. Titanium Ranger's got one of the coolest Zords out there, so I'm going to give it to the Lightspeed Rescue Max Solar Zord in this round. And finally, to finish out the first bracket, the first round that is, we have the Dino Thunder Brachio Zord against the RPM Bear Crawler. This is another mismatch. I don't know why they put these particular Zords against each other. I don't know if it was random or intentional, but first of all, let's look at Brachiozord because, I mean, first of all, it's a massive Zord. The thing is huge. It's big enough to house just about all of the Biozords. A lot of people call them Dinozords, but they were introduced as the Biozords, and I get messed up too because it is difficult because you got multiple dinosaurs out there that are Zords, but they are the Biozords, and the Brachiozord is one of the Biozords. Now, we didn't necessarily get an origin for this guy, and by itself, it doesn't seem to do much. I don't even think it shoots fireballs or anything. All it is just a giant Zord that carries the others, and that's pretty much what it does. And honestly, that is pretty cool just by the fact that inside of it, it can carry all the others. And actually, I was disappointed when I eventually did get the toy of this because you'd think it'd be a massive Zord where you could actually put your previously existing Zords in there, but no, it's just a little figurines of the actual Zords, not the real ones. And I've been disappointed like that before. I thought Zenith was a fluke. No, Zenith was a trendsetter of creating carrier Zords that don't actually carry your Zords. Yeah, I know you have to make the thing massively huge, but look at Pyramidas, right? I mean, you did that, and nothing wrong with that. But that's beside the point. The Brachiozord is just a cool Zord. It's, again, probably not the coolest of all the Brachiozords out there. I think that's still going to be showing up later in Dino Charge. Nevertheless, I do like it a lot. And frankly, when we get to the Bear Crawler, what does the Bear Crawler offer? Yeah, it can shoot missiles from its mouth. It can jump really high and bite the flying machines, but that's about it. There's nothing to it. Again, if this had personality like it did in Go Andra, I might give it some extra points for that. But as is, it's a pretty pedestrian Zord. There's not much about it. So rightfully, I just can't pick it in here. And you can chalk it up to me hating RPM, but, even the Whale Zord is a lot more interesting than this. So there we are. Brachiozord wins in that round. All right, heading to the second round, we have Ninjor versus the BullZord. Now, this actually is kind of a toss-up here because, again, Ninjor is awesome in itself. I mean, he's a giant ninja who is kind of a robot. I don't know exactly what Ninjor is, what kind of a living being he is, whether he's mechanical or anything. Seems obvious that part of him is at least a little bit mechanical. Not to mention Ninjor, and I didn't mention this before, but he can create power coins. He can create this kind of stuff. It's implied that he created the Dino Zords and implied that he created the Ninja Zords and the Shogun Zords. So, Zord creation is obviously something that should be up there as far as useful skills. Whether it's useful in battle is a different thing. But I do like him. And compared to the BullZord, I would just imagine if Ninjor was to fight the BullZord, Ninjor, because, as you say, the power of the ninja, the swiftness and the stealth, that I do think he could probably beat the BullZord in battle. And, of course, we got Ninjas versus Samurai. That would be an awesome episode, if not movie or special. So, it's a little hard to say why, but I really do like Ninja in this matchup. I would pick Ninja over the BullZord. Whether again it's a matchup or just in this popularity contest that we have here, but I like Ninja more. Yeah, get on me that he's not a Zord, but they should never put him as an option. Or do I need to bring up that Donald Trump thing again? Anyway, let's move on to the next one. We have the Lion Zord versus Catastros. I think this one is pretty simple. I only picked the Lion Zord because it was the lesser of two bad choices, and I love Catastros, so I'm going to pick Catastros over the Lion Zord. Next, we have the Q-Rex versus the Astro Megaship, and again, Astro Megaship is going to trump the Q-Rex. It can fly, travel faster than speed of light, and has a holodeck. Does the Q-Rex do any of that? Yeah, the Q-Rex may be able to travel through time, but it needs to be kicked in the butt in order to do that. Now, I don't think that actually happens in the series, but you get my point. It needs a time gate. Whereas I'm sure if the Astro Megazord could slingshot around the sun, I'm sure it could travel through time as well. So in this round, definitely Astro Megaship over the Q-Rex. Next, we have the Brachio Zord versus the Max Solar Zord. This is kind of a tough one too. Um, if I had to go ahead and choose between one or the other, I think I'd go with the Max Solar Zord here. And I go with the Max Solar Zord because, again, I'm a sucker for Zords that can fly and transform, so that's something the Brachiozord can't do. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say Max Solar Zord over the Brachiozord in this round. Simple as that. Next, we have Ninjor versus Catastros in our final four. I actually went back and forth on this choice a lot because, again, there are some positives and negatives to both of them and stuff. But I think when I look at what I like the most, I'm going to have to go with Catastros because here's the thing is that Ninjor is a good character, and yes, he can transform and make Zords and all that stuff, but Catastros has a mythology attached to him. That he was a horse, that he was brought down into the underworld and was corrupted and transformed into this mechanical beast. And he has that link with him and Nick, has the link with him and Korag. He can transform and help Korag out and help Nick out, has alternate forms. There is just something that's awesome about that. And again, I think it's also implied, much like Brysar can traverse through universes by himself. And if not, you got Korag to help him there. Because, what good is a horse without his master, right? So, I'm going to pick Catastros in this one because I do think there's an interesting mythology to the character. And, of course, Ninja has something of a mythology to him. But I just like all the stuff they do with Catastros. I mean, it's just awesome. So, I'm going to go with that. All right, in our next matchup, Astro Megaship versus Max Solar Zord. Now, they're basically both spaceships here, but I'm going to go with the Astro Megazord. I mean, compared with the two, heck, Astro Megazord gets a sword and shield. The best the Max Solar Zord gets is a shield that shoots lasers, but also the Astro Megaship can shoot lasers from its feet if it wanted to. So that's another perk that I didn't get to go ahead and mention. And again, I have to say, any Zord that goes faster than speed of light can create any food that you want and has a holodeck on it. I gotta pick that. So Astro Megaship in this round. And to finish it out, we have our final matchup, Catastros and the Astro Megaship. So, mythological horse Zord corrupted by evil in the underworld against the spaceship. And guess which one I'm going to pick? It's the spaceship. This was, as soon as I found out the Astro Megazord, Megaship, whatever was in this bracket, I had to pick the Astro Megaship. And even if you want to argue it doesn't have the shuttle aboard it, and of course it doesn't in the picture, but in most of the footage it doesn't have the shuttle in the picture, it can still do all those things even without changing into the Megazord. So, I'm sorry, folks. Power Rangers in Space Astro Megaship wins out in this round. And I hope you enjoyed all of Rick's Megazord Madness here. I enjoyed doing it, even if it took a while to get out. But there we are. Did my 5 match up to what they had Megazord Madness? Not really, but again, this is my list. This is what I wanted, and I hope you all had fun with it. Let me know what you think of these matchups here. Did you pick the Astro Megaship? Did you pick something else? What do you think? So leave the comments below, and I will see you another time here at the tavern. But until then, enjoy the footage.
Here goes! Let's blast off! Begin undocking procedure. Disengage and fire thrusters, now! Alright, let's bring it around and lock them together. Begin docking. Astro Megazord, online. It worked.
This is so cool. That was impressive. Destroy them!
Astro Megazord Saber! Energize thrusters! Let's do it, guys!